Okay, let's start the webinar. This is Zinet.
Hi, I'm Yael.
Hi. Maybe we should wait for a couple of minutes to give some more people to join.
Now let's wait 1 more minute and
Yeah,
start.
but in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay, so how are you? End of the day?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we had some technical issues, but
yeah. So
we managed. They might going to be solved in a minute, and then we'll start.
Okay. People keep joining.
So
okay, so let's give them 1 more minute and then we'll start. Just to give you the bit of logistics, the hosting. So this session is being recorded. You'll be getting an email, follow-up email with the recording, with some insights, something to take and adopt into your organizations. Today we'll have, I think, 40 minutes, including questions. So feel free to add your questions in this chat. We will follow up on the questions that will not be maybe able to answer due to the time constraints. So let's start.
Yeah, let's start.
Okay, so we are from Octopi. Let me introduce Yael Ben-Aria. She's our CEO.
A few words about myself. So I'm coming from a technical background. Was in engineering roles and later in data, also cybersecurity for a few years. Was both in small startup and huge organizations. I'm going to give you some examples later on about the work I did there and how I solved some of the challenges that I had. Happy to be here.
Okay. So yeah, so we co-host each other, so we'll have some laughs about it. So 3P Products, Octopi, 16 years in product management. So you'll see me talking about that a bit in our session. I'm a great believer of a new movement that is called data as a product. So we'll touch upon it as well. 25 years in technology. I look young, but I'm actually very old and very experienced. And we'll talk about our customers. This is one of the things that Yael and I we're giving each other examples all the time. And since we are from a startup company and we were in startup and then we were in corporate as well, we strive to provide to our customers in general some principles that we learned from technology, from software as a service, by the way. And we think together that this is something that it should be applied also to the data management world. So this will be the session essence. So don't forget to ask the questions. So let's start.
Yeah, I will also start with saying that, many times after full days of talking with customers and prospects and partners, Zenet and I find ourselves, in our meeting room where we sit actually now, chatting about data and try to take all the learning that we have during the day and kind of, okay, but we understand that there are, similarities and some principles that we see from companies that were successful in managing their data versus some that still struggle more. So I think that the fact that we see hundreds of, even more maybe, of customers, hopefully we'll be able to share with you some of that insight. And one of the topics that we've been chatting a lot on, and when we saw companies that manage to work well with their data, after discussion with them, it also was brought up what's unique about them, what makes them successful. And then we, time over time, go back to the lean data management. And I think that's why we chose to talk about it today. I think that as a startup, so I think I'm starting to be familiar with this term when I read books about lean startup. And it's something that is taking, I think, from the startup world. Meaning how to build a very successful company by doing the minimal steps that are required, and how to keep it small, but lean and mean.
And the major principle is fail fast.
Yeah,
right?
definitely in startup, yes.
In startup, you have the privilege sometimes to fail fast if you're starting something. But our customers, I think that fear of change derives from that, because you're not allowed to fail too much, because if you're failing your business. So there is let's say implicitly you have this fear there. And I got from a call last week, a simple change, maybe I'm exaggerating, a simple change can be in debate mode for a month, and you have 20 people debating around it, because then if you're applying the change, maybe something will break. And I asked the question, so how many meetings do you have? How many people do you had in this forums? That we have like 10 people, 3 months of meetings. I swear to God, 3 months of meetings. And I said, okay. And then said, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. We just duplicated the process, just not to touch what we did. And if you go back to the lean principles, lean mean also slim, fast, right? And with the ability to experiment. Now, if you don't have the ability to experiment, and it's totally understandable why, then instead of replicating what you have, the moment of, let's say, the aha moment should be, let's assess the impact. And the question is how, right? And then maybe Octopi will come into action.
Actually, we haven't even said a sentence about Octopi. So well, we're not here to talk about Octopi, but just for you to know what we're doing in case it's not clear for everyone. So Octopi helps organization understanding their data architecture. So we automatically connect to the entire data environment, to all the tools within the system, extracting the metadata, and then building what called the lineage maps, meaning that we automatically map the entire data system and later allow our customers to interact with it and understand fast where data is, how data flows look like. And by that, we help customers, as you said, take decision fast and understand, what they can change, what not. But maybe let's park that because we are not.
This relates to the principle of simplicity in lean, right? Yeah. Simplicity, if you have the right tools and the mindset, then if you have the perfect way to actually apply that. And if you're blind, you can't see, then what's happening? It started to be complex, right?
Yeah. Gonna touch about we had yesterday, not yesterday, sorry, last week, a really nice meeting with a friend of mine. So before joining Octopi, it was a few years back, I had the opportunity to build a new product and a new data organization within one of the largest enterprises in the world. So we took an on-prem set of products and try to move it to be SaaS solution. And actually, I was there from the early days, and I built the data department from, recruiting the first data analyst and DBA to a 100 people organization with data scientists and machine learning and so on. And so you can imagine all the challenges from, on-prem to cloud, and from building, scaling very fast, and still finding your hands.
With a very patient business, right?
Of course not. Yeah, it was the world's largest banks, and patient wasn't there. But eventually I continued with my career and left it in the hands of amazing woman that we met last week. And we met her, and I asked her, okay, well, how are you dealing with all the mess that I remember that we were stuck in? And she said, what mess? It's a data park. I mean, it's easy. Okay, what is? I mean, and they're running, I think they're one of the largest AWS account, and really, huge operation. How come it's easy? And she told me, well, it's about discipline. And she gave me a few examples that were actually then the basis for that discussion. And I give you a few. So she told me, for example, my BI team are not allowed to, restrict each division with up to, I don't remember the number, but let's say 100 dashboards. And so it means that if the CEO or the CFO wants to have another dashboard, he needs to retire an old one. Or if a data engineer or a machine learning developer want to have another notebook, it's Databricks, for example, he will need to retire something. Meaning that
refactor, right?
Meaning exactly that he either need to refactor something or to archive something that is not in use. So they're in a very, very strict monitoring of what's in use and what's not, and keep on all the time archiving data and notebooks and others that are not in use. And she also told us that she keeps the data management in a way that almost doesn't leave her with any duplication. So she have, for example, there's one duplication that she has to have for real-time processing, and that's restricted with data of 3 days. That's it. So the only duplication she's allowing have restriction in time. And last example from that amazing organization that we met is that but how do you still keep it in control and easy, as you said? Of course, I believe, I know her. She worked hard. She told me that for every change someone in the organization wants to do for a data asset, he has to get her team approval, but it's a super fast process, meaning that for every change, the team needs to come, whoever wants to do this change need to come to her and fill a super short form. What's the cost? What's the impact? And a few more questions. And within 24 hours, they are giving a green light for whoever wants to do the change, run.
Why 24 hours? I believe that it's about mindset of rapid iteration and feedback. Don't wait and over-engineering something. This is one of the things that I see, over-engineering mindset instead of rapid iteration and feedback. Because otherwise you cannot drive that constant business innovation, and you need to get the feedback. Fail fast, remember?
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you want people to have the process of, going through your team, or take the extra time to get permission or something like that, you need to promise them that they will get answer fast. Otherwise they will bypass you. So that was, I think, a very inspiring meeting that we had, but of course it's not always the case.
So another story. So it's the other way around. We started to onboard a customer, very good customers of ours, and I didn't understand quite well, what was the use case, because you have a certain mindset when you start with a product for data lineage, and the biggest enemy of a lean data management mindset is having a cluttered, chaotic data landscape. It could be because historical reasons. Okay, it's something 20 years ago that was decided. You have a process. You stuck with it. I'm not judging, but the end game was that they have 50K reports. 50K reports could be for Europe 50K reports. I don't know what to do with 50K reports. Probably use like 3K reports out of it. But the project was, now that we understand that we want to start fresh and to implement the right and effective governance process, and this is one of the pitfalls of the governance implementation. How do you start? Typically, you start with, let's reiterate the process that we have. You put in places new policies, new workflows, but eventually you need to clean your house first. And then you have a big project of cleansing, right? The point of lean is the other way around. I'm saying, have that big project of cleansing. But now, after you've done with it, then what's the next step? The next step would be anything that you build, for example, you pointed out the new asset. It should have a proven beneficial cost ROI for that business. You need to prove, and I'm speaking as a product manager, a business justification. Okay, what's in it for us, for the company? Why should it do it? What it should provide? And the mindset will be different. Then, what would be the impact on the architecture that I have today in terms of the cost that we will be needing to implement? Now, that entire process could be whatever I said, 3 months discussions. It could be. Okay, yeah. I'm not judging. The point is, it should be short. It should be lean. It should be, again, a slim way to move forward. And the secret sauce is to speak about the minimal viable data product. There is a big movement out there. I don't know if you're sure, if you heard about it. As a product manager, I'm following up on all the trends. So product management and software, it's a given fact. You need to be there. You need to justify why you're doing this, total cost of ownership, the user experience. You need to understand both. I'm saying I need to speak the business language and the development language, right? So minimal viable data product becomes a principle in data management as well.
So if to summarize, I mean, we talked about lean and data and stuff. I think if to summarize that point and maybe move to the advantages of why should I adopt and, you know, take the extra mile to change the methodology that my organization is using. So first, I think we're talking about methodology. We are not talking about a specific tool or a specific system that I need. It's a mindset, right? And it's a mindset to keep everything simple, clean, accessible, and to rapidly iterate on it.
And right? Center of it is continuous efficiency.
Exactly. All right. And you know, I guess you are like us in the past. You run large businesses and you are in charge of tons of data, and you need it all. I mean, it's very hard to cut. I mean, everything is important.
You hear about the garbage in, garbage out thing?
Go ahead.
So years I've been years working. Yeah, I know, because it dealt with large enterprises that wanted to migrate to the cloud or to deprecate the system or to centralize the system. And because of the fear of the change, then the simplest decision is just let us just go there and we'll deal with the mess afterwards. And I am not in favor of doing it, although lift and shift thing, because it's literally garbage in, garbage out. Lean means to iterate fast on the critical process that you have. So the first thing that you need to do, and this is another story of our customers who are working together. He's a very clever customer. So before we're doing that move, we need to understand the usage and the frequency of that asset, right? This is the first pillar. So it's about the value that it delivers. If it's highly used, frequency of usage is important as well, then it's a decision how to move it, right? And the end game is the costs, right? So again, lean means you need to justify it and you need to be very aware of the cost efficiency as well.
I have an example from another customer of ours, and I'll be a bit more specific maybe. So we are doing again data lineage and, you know, analyze all the metadata of our customers automatically. So some customers are using us to push the metadata into data governance solution. And we have a customers that recently told us, I don't want to you can't govern chaos. What he did in the beginning, he tried to push all his data, metadata, into his governance solution. And then, of course, it was too hard for you know, his team to be able to manage it. Because if you have data duplication, if, for example, you know, someone is getting into the system and find 20, 30, I don't know, many replication of customer name, then what should be authorized? What should I need? What needed to be, you know, regulated and so on. So after 2 years of project, he said, okay, enough. I need to start from the beginning. work with Octopi to understand the critical path, as you said, and push from Octopi into the governance solution only things that are cleaned and clear and that I want to govern. And then within a few, I think it was 2 or 3 months, he was able to rebuild the data governance tool filled with only the critical data that he needs. And then he said, okay, from one hand, I can now start, doing the governance, the data steward can start working, and all these processes can work. And that was fast. And over time, I'll add, each time a small piece that I want to govern as well. So as you said, start lean. I think that another learning that we heard from many customers actually is it's much easier if I'm when I'm starting from taking only a small sample or only the critical things, do the work I need to do with them, learn, and then, do the rest of the job. I mean, there's always, the 20-80% principle.
Mm-hmm.
Take the 20% of what you need that give you 80% of the value and start with that. So I think it also relate to your MVP example.
So what, let's say the principles are clear, okay? You need to, okay, you did the cleansing thing, right? Then the process of governance means you need to archive what you're not using, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to reduce the technical debt. Because if I'm not reducing the technical debt, then it means that we're paying more.
Yeah, I think there's also another, as you said, if you're still in the principle, and soon we're going to move into the next step, and I'm going to give you some practical tips. Is I think it's still, you prefer to have less, like own less. As much as you own as assets and processes, you're going to pay more time, effort, and such. So I think that mainly as data people, although we love to work with petals of data and such, as few as we have, as less as we have, it's much easier to manage. And then the duplication
issue. Duplicate.
Because it's hard to change, because it's hard to understand what I already have,
because what is missing
to change
sometimes. Documentation. I had a conversation with one of our experts saying, so 2 years after, nobody has documented something. I need to create, to do something in an ETL process. I'm not going to do anything there. I'm not going to refactor. I fear that I will break everything. So I'm just duplicating things, right?
Yeah, indeed. You just remind me a story that we met a customer. It was a new person in a company that just arrived to the company, and his role was to migrate 300 oracles into Snowflake in the cloud. And he said, I just joined the organization. How can I even, it will take me years to just understand what I have in those oracles so I can start, migrating them. So I thought in the beginning just to throw everything there. And then we actually were able to help him, mapping what he already has and start with the usage, as we said, start with what's being used the most, and then over time to retire the oracles. But yes, as you said, his initial thought was, okay, I'll just gonna push everything and duplicate and such. Let's talk maybe about what it gives you. It's definitely hard to adopt new methodology, and it's hard to question everything in that way. And again, I think we're soon gonna share with you also, like make it more, actionable.
Mm-hmm.
But what's in it for me?
Let's see, decision making. Maybe I can decide faster, right? Not 3 months, 24 hours. How that person, the great person that we've met, how does she do it in 24 hours? Because she has clarity, she has less, she's being very optimized in that sense. You don't have duplications, so you have the ability to decide in 24 hours.
Is another point, and that's the knowledge sharing. Because if you have one person that he's, or and many times it's like so one person, no, so in that case, no, because if you have one person and he's the bottleneck, then you're doomed. You have just a line of people outside, and we talked with many people that virtually have a line of people outside the office.
Decide in 24 hours and have all the information available to you.
That's cool. But what I meant to say is that it's also important to have a tribal knowledge and not to keep it on one person that, just hold it by himself and he's the bottleneck. So all of us aim to have a team of people that share the same knowledge and have the documentation in one place, so they know where to find it when they need it. So it's not
data provenance for all. So some tips. Do we have some tips for the guys here, the guys and the ladies? Yeah.
Okay. I think when I'm thinking about our product, who is a very, it has its place in the data world. But when I speak with customers, I'm trying to help them rethink or maybe take the time to think about the entire methodology of data management, from planning, testing before production, deploying, documenting, monitoring, and so to see it as a holistic view of data management. And I think that Lean Data also speaks about that. It's not only about one part of the journey, the data, journey. And I think it starts with planning and with
that means you need to understand to run with an impact analysis, and that impact analysis shows you the risk and can show you the efforts estimation. Do we want to do that big change or not, or if it's small?
So you definitely want to get to a point that change management is fast. Even if you have a super complex organization, you want it to be fast, and you want to be able to do it. I think one of the advantages that solution like Lineage brings, and each company manages differently, but you want the person that now is about to change the ERP data or CRM data to be aware of everything that goes along the way. So if 10 systems away, there are a few CFO dashboards that uses this data, he will be aware of that. So, you can stop the problem before it generates.
It shouldn't take you like 20 days to do that.
Right? It should be fast. Yeah.
Then what we will do, if we're not going to run impact analysis for 20 days, I had a customer saying to me that before Octopi, this is the time it will take them 20 days, and therefore they will be duplicating because they don't have the time to do for 20 days impact analysis, right?
Yeah.
It will take.
And the amazing thing, and I wish I had it when I was in my previous roles, is that there are tools today that will allow you to do in seconds, maybe minutes, the analysis of what will change when you're going to do your change, or how the flow going to look like after I'm going to change now this ETL or that piece of code. So really encourage you to adopt that. I think the second part is cost assessment and value. Yeah. I think that you need to have a process in place to justify every additional of new asset.
Product management doing that, by the way, in software management world, but in data it should be. And I heard someone say today that this big initiatives of data as a product. Data as a product means you need to be able to business justify, right? I'm saying the word business because it's not about the technical implications of it. Are you able to justify the business value? And it should be with a proven business value and with a cost assessment. And the cost assessment cannot be performed without an impact analysis.
Yeah. Also, by the way, we have quite a lot of customers that as part of their routine, they have to attach impact analysis assessment to their Jira or ServiceNow ticket,
right,
on every change they're doing. So what they're doing by that, they are forcing the teams to take the time and understand what will be impacted or changed. And I think that when you start making sure that you're not going to have failure in the future, when you have a shaky infrastructure, usually companies goes and try to fix what's shaky. My experience in the data engineering world, also in the data world is try first not to accumulate more debts before going to fix backward. So first, make sure that from now on, every change that will happen in production will improve the system.
It's called protective maintenance.
Whatever.
I have someone say it's called protective maintenance.
I also learned something.
Yeah. But in order to do that, going back to document, because otherwise we'll not be able to build the tribal knowledge without the documentation.
And also the recommendation is to force it. And there are tools that will help you easily force that every new asset or change. An asset can be everything. It can be a notebook, it can be a report, a table, a file, whatever. So it's not specific to any type of data something. And there are tools that will help you to enforce that every new change or asset will require, to make sure that they were documented, that someone add their owner and description, and maybe use. So it depends on how your organization is built like. So don't keep it. Don't. It's so much harder to decide that you want to have a data catalog, for example, and then try to apply it on 20 years old data.
Yeah.
Also here, try to take a decision that from that day on, you're not accumulating any debts. That from now on, everything will be documented, and then go to document everything that is important and all the things that are important. I think that's the only way that I saw customers, succeeding with actually being able to build data governance that is successful, is first care about from now to the future, and then go back to add things that are important.
This is the only way to run faster, by the way. And it said something about limiting to 100 dashboards, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the 50K reports, is it manageable, 50K reports? Is it manageable to have a dispersed global repository that you have the same 20, 30 reports per region, the same duplications? And this comes in with a very nice modern BI tools. Unfortunately, that every business user can recreate its own report, and then maybe he's leaving the company with 200 reports that nobody will use. But guess what? You need to maintain it. You don't know why, right? So going back to tracking the usage, put some thresholds, get rid of the redundant processes. Otherwise, you cannot iterate in small pieces.
I think in general, self-service is a blast, but it's a nightmare. And I think we hear it from most of the organization in the world, that they are stuck that from one hand, data democratization, it's critical. You want people to be able to monetize data and to get value out of it. But from the other hand, the technical data teams, they need to have control over from compliance to cost to architecture and so on. And that's a challenge we see, I think, in almost all organizations. But discipline is important. And maybe you guys are from the technical data teams or the governance, and you can put limitation. I'm allowing you up to a certain amount of assets to be created, and otherwise you need my approval, and I'll help you make sure that you're not duplicating.
Now that you mentioned, right, you mentioned the governance and the data teams, and we're discovering slowly, gradually that you're not talking to each other. I don't know why. You should talk. But because if you're going back to the lean data management principles, if you're not cooperating with each other within the same platform, by the way, with the understanding that, for example, data lineage for a data steward, it's not the data lineage that a data developer needs. It's not the same, different things. Then you cannot really, for example, another principle would be to minimize the hops in your environment within the data flows, minimize the data flows and complexity. So you need to talk to each other. Once you decided to add a new asset, it should be approved, and you need to be sure that it's unique. How do you know if it's unique or not if you're not speaking to each other?
I think the tip here is more concrete. we see organization that take decision on a management level that they don't want to have more than 5 data hubs in the organization. I mean, if the data went through more than 5, it could be 3, it could be 10, whatever fits your organization. Meaning that if data, the journey of data had more than 5 ops, and what we mean, for example, it's an application data that got in to a queue and then into a data lake and then into a specific, application a database and to whatever. So each, move of data, that's a hop. So the organization that's saying we are not allowing more than 5 and deal with it. I mean, we're not allowing you to do spaghetti out of the data.
How can you be compliant? How can you prove that no auditing process, traceability of that? So 30 hops or so.
That's hard. I used to have tons of Excels, just like that. But yes, there are tools today to do it, much easier and faster. But I think, again, we're talking here about methodologies. And I think, to summarize everything that we said, it's a bit all about discipline. And setting, but in order to get efficiency, you have to set up thresholds that are clear to everyone and to monitor and stand on them. So once you have, it's like you can't achieve anything if you don't have a goal. So maybe you should, my recommendation is set up the goal for yourself, like have a certain amount of report or, assets or hops or things like that, and try to keep that.
So I think we are almost running out of time, so I have like 5 minutes to take a question. I think we have questions about it, which is exactly what you said, the end goal. So can you describe the end goal of having a lean data management in place? How it will look like, that fantasy? Maybe it's not.
I can try. I think that you first want, from one hand, the data architecture and the data, let's say the data team, the technical data teams, to have control over everything. I mean, they need to be able to see where they're coming from, where it travels with a short glance. And of course, they need to give the ability for the rest of the organization to be independent and to run by themselves, but with limitation. Meaning that as the team that is responsible for the data in the organization, you can't let it get out of control. So I think you need to set up the limitation for each group or each division, and to be able to monitor that. I think that's kind of a structure that can help, or everything that we said. And again, give the tools for those teams to be able to understand the impact, analyze fast and so on. More to add to that?
Going back to as long as you keep you change your mindset, you have a new mindset, to allow yourself to be strict. You speak about limitation. I'm saying be very strict. Be like very strict on everything that you define as threshold. Have that policy in place, and you'll be successful. Second point of the mindset is, I know that it's hard to say experiment and fail fast and minimal viable product, but without that mindset, you'll probably go back in the long run, you'll go back to that habit thing. Because if you're over engineer everything and every decision on a change take you 3 months, then you're doing something wrong. I'm saying the mindset should be, if you have that, let's say the holy grail of, I should be able in 24 hours to decide if I'm making a change or not. I understand the implication, I understand the cost, I understand the business value, I understand the efforts required. It's unique, it's not duplicated. I have a process of documentation in place. I'm able to track the usage. I'm able to track the usage, by the way. It shouldn't be let's track the usage. It should be from day one. Then it's manageable.
I think we're going to share with you, we prepare some slides that we prefer not to track them now, so to make it more of a conversation.
Get a
we can
PDF.
share.
Get a PDF.
We'll share it so everything is being documented there.
Documentation is important, right?
We haven't thought about that when you did it. So it was a pleasure talking with you as well.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening. Hope it's helpful.
Next time, podcast. Okay. Bye.